Hypocrisy.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I am your late host, who is also very gay, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. I do apologize, guys. I just was asleep. I just passed out on my bed. Had a bit of a long day, not like particularly crazy or anything, but Lady Rackets was gone most of the day. And so I did a local stream earlier for about an hour, which was a lot of fun. If you want to check that out, it is up on Locals. It should be able to be viewed by anybody, whether you're a member or not. It was just a random live streams. My post-stream live streams that I do are Locals exclusive. So you have to be a Locals member to watch them. But when I do kind of the impromptu local streams, what I'm looking to do is show people like what, that there are other discussions that happen in the main show. And they're really just for kind of anybody to consume with as many cooms as you can. And so that's what we did a little bit earlier. But then Lady Rackets was helping a family member out with some stuff. And so she was gone all day. And then I was just hanging out with her, very peaceful. And I passed out. I was like, done. So I woke up and I'm like, oh my God, it's after 11. So here I am. Sorry about that. I mean, I'm always late, but like, I like being like a minute or two late is different than being, fucking 10 minutes, 20 minutes late. As for Joe, so normally Joe would be on tonight with me. I don't know if he's going to be or not. I didn't confirm with him earlier in the day. I have sent him the link. He's welcome to show up. This stream is going to be the same themes, whether he is here or not. So that's cool. I do want to report we're up to 133,000 subscribers on Rumble, which is fucking crazy. Oh, what's up to Good Logic and their viewers rating the show? Maybe that means that Joe's on his way. We'll see. He usually takes a couple minute break between coming on here. So, very, very cool. If he comes on, like I said, the topics are going to be the same. Topics tonight are the overall theme is how the government, it's not just the American government, but state governments as well. They're inept and they're opposed to your constitutional rights. Look, I know that's a consistent theme on this channel, and it's consistently true. And it's consistently more true. The more government we get, the further along we get, the further away we get from the Constitution and the founders, the closer we get towards ridiculous levels of tyranny. Kimbo Nice, I see you, brother. Oh, I checked my P.O. box. I'm at a loss. I'm at a loss for what was in there. And you sent something to Lady Rackets that she won't even show me. But all of that is upstairs currently. And I may do an entire Locals video dedicated to what you sent. Because I don't know what to say about it. I frankly don't even know what to say about the sender's address that was on the box, my man. I don't know what to do at all with that. Jenny LJ, yes, I do have a P.O. box. I used to put it in the video descriptions. I should do that now. Rumble implemented a template video, live stream template, which is nice. And so I can modify that and put the P.O. box instructions in there again so that I start adding them. My P.O. box, for anyone curious, you don't ever have to send me anything, but it is P.O. Box 97 in Spicer, Minnesota, 56288. It's also on any live stream from last year. It's going to have it on there on YouTube in the description. Some of the videos I upload have them on there. I don't always put it on there, but I really should be doing that. So, um, there's huge news from Rumble. Huge news from Rumble. There was a Rumble earnings call. I don't listen to that. Someone in locals is saying we got a number on the people who came over with Crowder to locals and Rumble. He got at least 57,000 to sign up for some form of monthly contribution. That is fucking unreal. That is unreal. Cedar Rose, just a second. And then, of course, the huge news of the day from Rumble as well is that the two biggest streamers, Kai Cenat from Twitch and IShowSpeed from YouTube, have signed up to do some sort of show with Rumble. It airs on May 26th. They're running a live like countdown with nothing happening but the timer. And there's already like 2,200 people just sitting there watching the countdown like fucking dummies. Go, when's the show going to start? I don't know, in 10 days, dude. That's what it says. So, crazy town. Rumble is popping off. I know for a lot of you guys, you might not know who Kai Cenat and IShowSpeed are. I barely do. I only do because I get social media news updates. They're two really young guys. They're both black. They're like, I don't know, 21 to 25 years old, somewhere like that. They do some kind of ridiculous shit, and they're exceedingly popular. Kai Cenat was on a Twitch stream while I was doing the movie night. He had his Twitch stream up. He had like 50,000 live viewers, and that's pretty common for him. IShowSpeed routinely gets tens of thousands of live viewers on YouTube. They're huge channels, and now they have been signed on with Rumble. I don't think they're exclusive to Rumble or anything, but I think they have an exclusive show together, which is a real fucking power move by Rumble to get them to do that. That's huge. That's a whole nother demographic audience that's a lot younger that's coming to Rumble. And as much as people may like want to shit on younger audiences and the content that they consume, these people being me, a lot of times, as much as that is true, look, platforms that are aiming towards the oldest demographic, like Fox News and CNN and NBC, they've got a self-limiting and self-deleting audience. And if they're not pushing towards the younger demographics, they're going to have real trouble as their audience continues to expire from old age. And I hate to put it that way. And I know some of you who watch my show are in a little bit older demographic as well. I love everybody, right? But platforms need to be drawing in younger audiences, exposing them to other material that's on there. And it's really cool to see Kai Cenat and IShowSpeed. Two guys have been affected in some ways by the cancel culture of big tech. Kai Cenat was recently banned. He's been banned from Twitch like 3 or 4 times. Now, Twitch bans last a couple days typically. He's been banned from Twitch a couple times for stuff he has done or said. IShowSpeed was famously kicked off of YouTube entirely for his "who's gonna stop me from breeding with you" question to that one chick, which was just fucking hilarious in context. It's just like, it's a joke, probably, but also a little bit true, which makes it uncomfortable. But he got kicked off of YouTube. That's big tech censorship and cancel culture right at work. So seeing those guys come to Rumble and seeing those guys, potentially bringing hundreds of thousands to even millions of people to this platform just helps improve the longevity of Rumble and really makes it a contender. This is huge fucking news. Like, I don't even know. I never expected this at all. I never expected them not to cater to them, because they are trying Rumble Gaming. They're trying to push gaming content and stuff like that, which I know that at least I would assume both of them do. I know IShowSpeed does. I would assume Kai does as well. But so they're trying to push gaming content. So I know they're aiming in that community and demographic, but to snag a hybrid deal with the top 2 streamers on YouTube and Twitch is fucking huge. Okay, Some Dumb says, "Who's going to stop me from breeding with you?" Sounds a little rapish. Yes, I'll give you the context. I highly recommend anyone to go look up this clip. All right. So IShowSpeed is interviewing some girl. She's pretty. I don't know who she is. She's relatively pretty. And he says, okay, here's the question. If the entire population of the earth, except for me and you, if they all die, we're last two left. He goes, and we have to repopulate the earth. Would you do it with me? Would you do it with me? And she goes, no. He says, why not? She says, well, because then our kids would have to breed. And that's weird. Like our kids would have to continue on. And he gets real serious and he looks her in the eyes. He says, who's gonna stop me? Who's gonna stop me? Like that. It was unfucking real. It was unfucking real that he said that. Hilarious. And also, you know what? It's really unfortunate to like get real on it, but that is a good question in those scenarios. Like, it's going to stop people. I don't think people take post-apocalypse very seriously. Because if you notice, I've noticed, but I'm broken, so maybe you didn't. Post-apocalyptic movies and books have a shocking lack of rape. Sometimes it's implied that there is sexual servitude going on. The Bible says in Revelations that that it will be a hard time on women in the end times, right? Yeah, fam, you do not want to be female in a post-fucking apocalypse. Do not. I mean, you need protection as fast as possible. And anyone protecting a female is at fucking risk too. It's horrifying. That's why when people talk about like accelerationism and a modern civil war and all that stuff, I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm not really feeling how horrifying that shit gets. And I do not think popular literature covers it at all. Man, it will be a gross, gross place. Andrew W. says, because it's really hard to watch, it makes people not want to see the movie. Right, yeah. The practical, like, I'm not saying they need to put a bunch of scenes in it, but man, sometimes it's implied fairly well. I think Book of Eli implies it pretty well in that movie. But it's a tough, nasty subject. But the reality is far worse, I think, than any fiction will be. So yeah, anyway, iShowSpeed makes a joke that's got a kernel of like truth and reality to it, but it's a joke that is not PC. He was booted off YouTube. And again, #1 streamer on the platform, in sheer numbers on streams, at least in America. But I think he's like one of the only guys who routinely competes with VTubers on numbers. And you've probably seen clips of him doing retarded stuff on his show, like lighting off a string of firecrackers in his bed, or like a big Pikachu firework in his bedroom. Insane shit. But yeah, he's a wild streamer, very unpredictable. People like him. Perfect for Rumble. So that's that. One more thing. Let me see if Joe responded to me yet. He hasn't responded yet. And I still don't know if he's coming. But I want to do one last thing before if Joe's going to show up, before Joe shows up and before we get into the show. So yesterday is Mother's Day. I was on Twitch. We watched Howard the Duck. It was so much fun. I had forgotten everything about that movie other than the duck and the naked ducks. And that movie gets a bad rap. Like, it's ridiculous. It's campy. It's corny. But it's so 80s. It's perfect. And I really love that movie. It was so much fun to watch. But it was Mother's Day. And I said something on Twitch that I'm going to repeat here because I know nowhere near as many people watch my Twitch show as watch the show here on YouTube and Rumble. All right? And I think this is important. I think this is important really quickly. This is a message to you moms out there. It's also a message to you dads, but this is Mother's Day, and I think moms get a little bit of a different experience than dads do. And so I want to address that very quickly. I spent a lot of time with Lady Rackets this weekend, but we were busy all weekend. Our daughters had dance recitals all weekend long. It was dance recitals. That's what we were doing. Getting them ready for the dance recital, getting them to the dance recitals, watching the dance recitals, getting them food between them. My son also went to prom, so there was that. It was a big mess, but it's a great mess. But here's the thing, moms. I love my mom. She is awesome. I know not all of you had the best mom. I do. I do. But here's the thing. The moms I know, and I'm guessing a lot of the moms out there right now watching, I know there are days where you feel like you have absolutely and catastrophically failed your child. Those days when you're yelling at them, those days when they are not cooperating, where you have a fight. It doesn't matter if they're 2 or 25. There are days where you're out in public and you have a fight with your kid. People are looking at you. They see you, you feel dejected, and I know you go home. And I'm not going to accuse you of crying, but I know you go home with a lump in your throat, with a stone in your heart, and you think, I am the fucking worst person on the planet. How can I feel this anger towards my child? I must be failing them. I'm here to tell you, in case no one has, because I know you got a little card on Mother's Day that said, "Thanks, Mom, I love you." I know you got a bunch of people who said Happy Mother's Day passively, just remembering barely that you existed with a child in your womb, that you've been raising this damn thing for however many years. And they're just like, "Oh, Happy Mother's Day," because it's a throwaway Hallmark line these days. But I know you have had those bad days. And in case no one's actually told you, those bad days are nothing. Those bad days are footnotes in the history of your child. And you are important, you are critical, you are loved, and you are needed by those kids. And it takes a whole lot more than your little failures to screw them up, because you are building them so much every single day. You're building them so much, and it's so routine that your brain forgets that you're doing it. You don't get a dopamine response because it's habit. It's routine. It's normal for you to do well. The things that stick out are where you fail, and those failures are minimal. So be uplifted, be respected, be loved, be supported. Allow yourself to be those things, because you are all of them. And every moment with your child is a blessing to them. And they will love you and cherish you despite your failures. So there you go. That's to all the moms out there, in case no one gave you a heartfelt and sincere message about what you do to children, what you do for them, and how you build them up. All right. Happy Mother's Day to all of you. All right. Okay. Enough of that sappy bullshit. Enough of that sappy bullshit. But it's also true. God. If you're a parent and you don't feel like a failure from time to time, you need to consider that you're doing something wrong, actually. Like, you might need a hospital check. Okay. All right, here we go. Let me hit these super chats that have come in, and then we're going to jump into the topics of the stream. Jump in, I say 20 minutes into the fucking show, but here you go. There's a tear in my eye. Prove it, bigot. So no, I saw Rumble's announcement. They did buy a podcast and stream network out of California today. And they added the CEO of that company to the board of directors for Rumble. I haven't really looked into it. Rumble is hitting the shorts platform. Like they've got a shorts alternative, like a shorts style alternative coming up, which I'm really excited for. And if they're going to start focusing on podcasting, man, if there's an easy way, I know some developers have it, but if there's a way to sync my shows into an automatic audio rip that forms a podcast, my God, that would be fucking amazing if Rumble did that. If Rumble did that, that would be amazing. So I'm hoping so. So many people ask me for the audio only of these shows. And because it's more convenient for them, they listen to it later anyway. Yeah. The only reason I don't do it is because it's a little wonky to get it set up, and I'm already stretched thin and failing in like several other aspects. So I might actually be fixing that soon, unless they come up with an automated thing. It would be great. All right, here we go. Renegade Shuriken says, "Yo, Rackets, fat shame me as brutal as you can. Gained 10 pounds in 2 months due to my lovely wife's cooking. She started affectionately calling me teddy bear and piggy. Oh, shit. I need to be free from this torment. Do not be kind. Thanks. I got you. Real quick, my ADD made me remember. Cedar Rose, you wanted what up, elbow girl? How you doing? How you do? You put arms girl to shame because you got them elbows. Here's the thing. You wanted a preview of what Kimbo Nice sent me. It involves a body pillow, a flag, some fan fiction, and knee pads. There you go. There you go. Oh my God. Okay. So to Renegade Shuriken, you fat piece of shit. You fat, disgusting beta male sack of estrogen. How dare you reinforce your wife's feelings by eating her food enough to gain weight? Oh, it's good? Oh, her food is good. That'll be great. Yeah, shut your mouth. That's the problem. You keep it open. You keep shoving food into it. Shut it. If you have to eat her food, if you have to shove that gruel into your fat, disgusting mouth, grease pimples all around your lips, do you have herpes? No, just huge. Yeah, okay. Eat it and then go throw it up like a real man. Stop being a bitch. Oh, I gained 10 pounds. You gained 10 pounds, lose it tomorrow. Keep dry heaving until something comes up. Throw up blood. I don't care what you have to do. Get that weight out of you. You disgust me. You're horrifying. Your wife's calling you, oh, Teddy Berry and Piggy and whatever other bullshit name she's got for you. Behind your back, she's calling you a fat sack of trash. And she's worried about the next time you roll on top of her that her pelvis is going to be crushed and she'll die in bed under your disgusting tits that are bigger than hers. Ew. Have some decency, sir. Sleazy says down from 270 to 180. Fat shame me. Well, you're 180 pounds fat shame me. How tall are you? EKGs are Thursday. Blood work done today. Prayers would help. And also trying to build my channel, Sleazy Society, on YouTube and Rumble. 180? What? You're probably like 5'1", 5'2". Or you're like Ben Shapiro. I'm 5'10". Oh, sure you are. Okay. Yeah. 180 pounds, you fucking bowling ball. The only thing grosser than the bowling ball you are is the giant bowling pin women that you throw yourself at. Ugh. 6 feet 180. Dude, you don't need much fat shaming 6 feet 180. I mean, you're not that big, but hit your goals, man. Hit your goals, man. Oh, Camelot, what's up? Nice of you to be here. Nice of you to show up. Bigot. You going to be on Friday, you bitch? You little cream puff? Should we schedule the Friday show for a different day? My God. You wrecked in your race? God. Someone asked me if you were going to pull a Dale Earnhardt. And I said, I hope he does. And I was like, oh, wait, I better take that back just in case he dies. You don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. Why did you crack? Okay, we'll get the story on Friday. We'll get the story on Friday. I'll talk to you then. Well, I'll talk to you before that, but we'll talk on stream then. Love you, brother. Can't wait to have you back on. Bella Stella gifted 5 memberships. Thank you, Bella Stella. Chandler's H barbecue and ice. Yes, Adriana Chechik did read my message, but she didn't really respond to it. So hopefully I didn't freak her out too much with it. We'll maybe I can get in contact with her personally. I would love to interview her. Bunch of people are gonna say a bunch of weird shit about it, but I just want to. Like I said, for a long time I've wanted to interview a couple adult film industry people, prominent ones, particularly about that industry, its implications on free speech, and its implications on the psychology of people and changing the way they view sex. I know that my view of sex has been dramatically influenced by pornography. I think a lot of people in my generation and the next generation probably have had a lot of their sexual ideas sculpted through the lens of pornography, and it's only getting more prevalent. So I'm curious to ask questions about that in a safe environment where, like, I'm friendly. I'm a friendly person to ask those types of questions. I'm not trying to put them in a hot seat or make them hostile or question their life choices or anything like that. So, Rita Castillo, hey, how's it going? But and I think just because Adriana Chechik is a Twitch streamer, so she's used to kind of the social media environment, and she probably deals with hilarious comments to her all day, that I think she'd do okay in the chat. But that's kind of on the back burner. If I can make it happen, I will, but it's not like a high priority, but it's something I've wanted to do forever. Better not be dudes, bro. Well, we had Herc on here. We had Big Herc on for a little bit, and he's a former, like, that wasn't the theme of the show, but, you know, he and Drex kind of talked about that bit of his life where he was an active porn star. I didn't know that when he was coming on. I didn't know that about him at all. I just knew that he was a dude in prison who had a YouTube show. But yeah, so he talked about it a little bit. But I want to get a little bit more in depth on a focused and planned discussion, mainly because, like, I don't want to blindside anyone with that discussion either. It should be obvious that that's what we're going to be talking about. Fake Doctor Lawyer says, Nick, I messaged a while back Ari a rough ride with the wife. Since then, everything has gotten better. Working late tonight to try and ruin an expert's career in patent litigation. If life is a candle, cheers to the brightest flame. Cheers, Fake Doctor Lawyer. I'm glad to hear that everything's going better. I'm glad that everything's going better for you and the wife. I pray that it'll continue to do so. And you know what? Like, a lot of times, marital issues can seem like the biggest thing in the world. And then 6 months later, you know, as long as decisions that are permanent aren't made, people find their way back together and they find their way back into peace and harmony. So I'm hoping the best for you. Keep me posted. If I can help out with advice or anything, please let me participate in that. I'm an expert on marriageology. Matrix says, love you and thank you for everything. Oh, thank you. Just Jenny says, here's hoping we all have moms we can adore, but if not, having women in our lives that show us what a mother can be. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Comics Mando, Rackets, lost my job and girlfriend this week. Can I hit you with a fat shame? Holy shit. I can't fat shame you harder than life did. Your girlfriend left because you're a disgusting blob. Your job kicked you out, probably from the smell. You need to get your life in order and stop making orders to fast food places. You fat pile of garbage. Ew. Mega Mobass, hey, Nick, your little speech about mothers and how important they are really hit home with me. I left a very, very well-paying job to move home to help take care of my grandmother. I haven't looked back. Family is so fucking important. And Bright Eye says, can I ask for prayers for my close friend, please? She's been in ICU for a month. We almost lost her today, but she's fighting hard. Thank you so much. Of course, Bright Eyes. I will happily do so. And I would encourage anyone in the chat to pray for Bright Eyes' friend. All right. Let's hit these topics. I think we're good. So today, we're going to start with the minimum wage. We're going to start with the minimum wage. But the overall theme of today's discussion is really about government. I mean, the minimum wage is direct government intervention in the private sector. That's what it is. It's what it's always been. That is never, in my opinion, a good thing. The government is not good at running private businesses. The government is not good at telling private people what to do and have it be successful. The government is not good at picking winners. Because no individual is generally good at picking anything. We might get things right from time to time. But on balance, we make a bunch of judgments about what the rest of an economy is wanting, and we're usually wrong. The overwhelming majority of people are wrong about what society likes. That's why the overwhelming minority of people are successful in selling things to society. All right? This is very, very simple and straightforward, and is obvious the moment you put your mind to thinking about how our society consumes things, how it chooses what to consume, and who ends up winning. A couple people might win a lot, but it's only a few people relative to total population who win at all. The main reason being is because large groups of people are relatively unpredictable in taste. They're predictable in a lot of things. Large groups of people are predictable in death rates, in birth rates. They're predictable in political views. They are predictable in overall economic success. They're predictable in industry. They're predictable in accidents. They're predictable in crime. They're not predictable in taste. Even the best companies make shit that people don't like, and they do it with frequency. And the main reason that the biggest companies are able to succeed is because they have the resources to weather the failures. So we should not be surprised that when government orders something to happen in relation to small businesses or large businesses or private businesses in general, or specifically, it's often a failure. One of my favorite stories about this is Anthem. It's a short story by Ayn Rand about a society that has removed all individual words. I, me, you. There are no pronouns that are me. It's everything is collective. And there's a guy. He's smart. He's really fucking smart, and he wants to be a scientist. But they have a community, or a community board that assigns people to their jobs. This is what you will do for society, right? And so he goes before them. He says, I want to be an inventor. I want to do this. And they go, nope, you're a street sweeper. Again, this guy's brilliant. But he's a street sweeper. He doesn't say I. He says we, or his number that he's referred to, his generic name. While he's street sweeping, he comes across a manhole. And he, like any gay, dives right into the manhole. No, just kidding. He goes down there into the sewer system, and back in a crook of the sewer system that he starts exploring, he finds books, and he finds a light, eventually an electric light, and he finds a way to recreate the electric light. This whole society operates by candlelight, and he recreates the electric light, and he goes before the board of inventors, and he says, I have the greatest thing. I have the greatest thing. And he shows them the light. And they look at him and they say, what about the candle makers? He's like, what do you mean? We just spent 5 years teaching the torch makers to make candles. If your light comes out, what do the candle makers do? And he's like, what do you mean? What about this light will make everything work? Everything will be better. And they exile him. They exile him rather than reward him. And this is the basic story of government. They picked the loser. They picked the candle. When the car came out, they would have picked the buggy, the horse-drawn buggy. Governments are terrible at picking winners. Strongly recommend everyone read the book Anthem by Ayn Rand. It's fantastic. It's short, too. It's short. So with that, I've got this story. This one is out of Minnesota. Oh, what are you doing, girl? Oh, you need a hug. 1 second, guys. Stay right there. You have nice dreams too. Okay. Sorry. That's my daughter. I have to hug her every night so she doesn't have nightmares. And since I was asleep, I forgot to go give her a hug. Okay. Here we go. So this is a story out of Minnesota on the minimum wage. So federal researchers looked into the Minneapolis and St. Paul $15 minimum wage boost. It boosted pay, but it cost jobs. Who could have predicted this? Oh, I don't know. Literally everybody. Literally everybody could have predicted this. But now we at least have a study on it, I guess. Legato Starwind says, hey, Nick, on YouTube, if you upload a video that is pornographic, but you age restrict it, can you upload it without getting a channel strike? I've looked into using Rumble, but their rules are no different than YouTube. Why are you uploading pornographic videos to YouTube or Rumble? It depends what you mean by pornographic. YouTube has nudity on it, but it's in context of things. Major music videos, like Blurred Lines, for example. There's naked yoga, I guess, but they tend to be demonetized. When you age restrict them to 18 plus, they are demonetized. But I'm not sure why you would have that question. Like, just upload it to a porn site if it's actual porn. So, okay. But yeah, it really depends if your definition of pornography is actually pornography or if it's just nudity. Okay, here we go. So many economists have reached similar conclusions about minimum wage increases in the past, but some progressives and labor groups argue $15 still isn't high enough to ensure working class families can make ends meet. Well, let's see how that worked out. Let's see how it worked out. The push to raise minimum wage to $15 an hour in both Minneapolis and St. Paul has successfully boosted the average worker's hourly pay in both cities. But it has also led to sharp drops in the number of available jobs and hours worked. New research from the Federal Reserve Bank in Minneapolis has found many economists have reached similar conclusions. Still, the size of the impacts the researchers measured by comparing Minneapolis and St. Paul to data culled from other Minnesota cities from 2017 through 2021 were eye-popping, especially in low-wage industries. Why? They're the most obvious hit industries. When you take someone who was minimum wage was $7.25 an hour and you over double it to 15, what the fuck do you think is going to happen to the number of hours available? Businesses have finite money and they can't just raise price to compensate. If you double the price of their labor, you're going to lose labor. They can't afford it. It's insane. It's eye-popping. Why? Take Minneapolis's retail sector, for example. The minimum wage increase led to 28% fewer retail jobs than researchers would have expected from a similar city during the same 5-year period. By this comparison, Minneapolis also saw a 20% drop in hours worked and a 13% dip in aggregate workers' earnings. So raising the minimum wage, as expected and predicted, reduced the total amount of pay in the industries of the city. Yes, they cannot afford the labor. Across St. Paul's restaurant industry, the city's 2018 minimum wage hike was responsible for drying up nearly 1/3 of available jobs, the study found. In limited service fast food restaurants, both hours and earnings fell by more than half after the increase took effect. Quote, these were larger effects than what even we expected. Though we had no idea before we went into the study what we would find, said co-author Anusha Nath, a senior research economist at the Fed. The research, which Nath conducted with 2 University of Minnesota economists, has yet to be published in a peer-reviewed journal. Across all industries, both cities saw hourly wages increase by an average of less than 1% and a roughly 2% drop in the number of jobs. The wage hikes accounted for the loss of an estimated 5,000 jobs in Minneapolis and another 3,800 jobs that dried up in St. Paul, Nath said in an interview. The papers could become new fodder for groups who oppose the Twin Cities push for the $15 minimum wage. That's just anyone with a fucking brain. Anyone with a brain should oppose minimum wage increases and should oppose minimum wage, period. That's right. The minimum wage set by government should be $0. If you want the fairest market assessment of the job's worth, it should be $0. And I love that people will argue with this despite the evidence forever. But you want inflation? Increase minimum wage. You want reduced productivity? Increase minimum wage. You want reduced jobs? Increase minimum wage. You want to force the most people at the lowest rung of the economic ladder? Increase minimum wage. Because all you do is set the bar of poverty. And then you force everyone to model off that bar. And you give an excuse for a lot of jobs to underpay employees to the minimum. If a job is worth $9 an hour, but the minimum wage is $7.50, there's a high likelihood that the job will pay $7.50 for most of the people working there. Because unless you are savvy enough to negotiate for $9 an hour, they're going to pay you the minimum. That actually stays true up through several rungs of increases, maybe even to double the salary. Because the government told me this is the minimum I can pay, it is the minimum I will pay. And it's really easy to say negotiate. But at minimum wage jobs, you can make the argument that you're worth more than $7.50 an hour. But the reality is they probably have a bunch of people who are worth $7.50 an hour right behind you. And they're not going to ask for $9, $10, $11 an hour. They're just going to take the $7.50. And the amount of increased productivity that you bring at a low skill, low wage job is probably not worth the extra money. The reason I say zero is because the government should not be telling private industry what to do. People and businesses should come up with their own market rates, and they will largely do that. Will some people be left with lower paying jobs than what we would want? Sure. Sure. Yes, of course that will happen. It already does. It already happens this way. The zero is just 15 in these cities. It was 725 or 775. Now it's 15. Now you're forced to pay $15 for the person who was worth 7 because there was someone who was worth 12. And that's ridiculous. Every time the minimum wage is discussed and implemented in the way that they want with increases, it fails every time. And government should know this. They see this lesson every time they do it. And yet, as stated, government is inept. And raising the minimum wage never drug anyone at the minimum wage out of poverty. Ever. There is no one who went from poor because they were making minimum wage to not poor because they were making the new minimum wage. Do you know anyone who's like, oh, well, our minimum wage went from $8, $12 an hour. Now I'm great. Now I'm great. Everything's fine now. Okay. I don't know anyone like that. I've never heard that story. I'm sure there's a politician who's gotten a letter from someone whose life vastly improved by going from $8 to $12 an hour with everybody else. Page CM says one element missing to talk about. We have a greater amount of two earners needed, especially with small children or elderly working 2 part-times. So higher rate can reduce hours and still give a household a better quality of life. Maybe, but it also raises the price on everything. Have you seen what has happened to groceries and fast food? Guys, I went to Subway the other day and bought one sandwich. It was $16 for a sandwich, 2 cookies, and a drink. $16 for a fucking Subway. I was like, what? The price has to come from somewhere. Increasing the amount of money in the system artificially increases the price of everything. When I go take my kids to like McDonald's or Culver's or something, and it's like $60, my God, you know what I could have made for $60? Jesus, we could have all been eating ribeyes tonight. Oh, and by the way, I get a basic bitch sandwich. I get a cold cut trio. It's not even an expensive sandwich. Beak boop. I would be a fat kid, but I didn't even eat the cookies. Gave them to my son. I like those cookies too, but someone ate his snack and didn't ask him, so. Snuggle Struggle says, my friend is an accountant. His resume is on some site that batches to companies in bulk. They lowball 20 to fill 3 jobs, hiring whoever accepts less. Yep. It's crazy, man. And it's consistent. It's consistent. Look, the concept seems sound. The idea that you can force people to get paid more and that people will be doing better seems like common sense because it only looks at one side of the issue. It only looks from the worker's perspective. Is entirely a socialistic sort of or Marxist perspective, the perspective of the laborer. But it doesn't consider the fact that the owner, that the private owner of a company, or even the publicly traded and owned company, that they have an economic interest and investment in the company, and that the company has finite resources. The company has to generate sufficient revenue to cover its labor cost, to cover growth, to cover its capital expenditures, and hopefully enough to be profitable. If the companies aren't profitable to a sufficient margin, then they stop existing because the work to run them isn't worth the money that's put in. And that may not be fair, right? But if you're an investor in a publicly traded company and that company is consistently doing 2% profits, so your massive investment of maybe $1 million is doing 2% annually, and you look at other industries, other companies, other possible investments, and you go, my money could be doing at minimum 6 to 12% annually. Following Standard & Poor's, it could be doing 15% annually on average. Why do you keep your money in a 2% business? Usually it's only passion at that point. Now, some businesses are so huge in scale that a small profit margin is actually acceptable. Oil companies, for example, are massive in scale, and their profit margins typically aren't that big. Or at least they haven't been historically. A lot of times you're talking 5%, but the company is so huge that that 5% number produces massive amounts of money that is beneficial for the people working there. That's the oil industry. Other companies like tech companies, Apple, stuff like that. Apple, I think, runs 20 to 30% margins some years. You start looking and going, where's my money more useful? Am I getting a 20% return? Am I getting a 2% return? That's a consideration that needs to factor into this. The fact that companies have to earn the money they're going to pay out. Now, of course, you can subsidize it. You can do all sorts of stuff. You can give them tax incentives, but that's all artificial. The reality is economics always exist, and they perform in relatively predictable ways. And if you just determine that the cost of labor in some industries has to almost double, well, you got to expect the number of available hours to go down. And so while individual workers may, and I repeat, may have a better short-term experience in those industries, you're cutting a lot of jobs right out of the market. You're cutting hours out of the market. You're cutting some of those part-time workers that were mentioned earlier out of the market because they don't have time to pay a part-timer, or you're cutting full-timers into part-timers. You're reducing benefits. The government is bad at dictating how business should work. It's consistently bad at it, and yet they consistently do it. Paige CM with another super chat. Thank you, Paige. This is not saying government should be INV, but then it goes back to corporate greed because it's not going to the worker. You just proved that. We are paying minimum wage and costs still went up. It's a classic no-win situation. Well, I'm saying that there was a massive push for increases in minimum wage across the country that happened, and that prices went up across the country. We also had some other monetary issues like just printing trillions of dollars. Inflation has to catch up at some point. And corporate greed sort of exists some places, but the risk is on those owners. All of the risk. Employees getting sued while working for companies, that goes to the company almost always. It's almost never on the employee. I mean, you talk about running a trucking company. Run a trucking company. Your trucker falls asleep at the wheel, something happens, even if it's just icy, kills an entire family. $20 million judgment. Does a trucker bear that? Not unless he's doing something criminal, driving under the influence, you know, negligently, like the guy in Colorado who checked his brakes. He knew they were bad, but he went down the hill anyway. Stuff like that. They bear the burden, but the company bears the cost of the lawsuit because the worker doesn't have $20 million, but that's a huge risk. And that's just one type of thing that can go wrong. All of this shit falls into different considerations. And that's what I'm saying. And that when we do minimum wage laws, where we just boost the minimum wage artificially, they're always shocked when businesses across the city shut down. They're always shocked when there's not as many jobs available. They're always shocked when workers don't have as much hours. The least surprising thing about this is that it's exactly what always happens, and they're always surprised by it because they only look at one consideration, and it is a valid consideration. The worker experience is critically important. We have entire fields of mental health professionals trying to figure out the worker experience because you got to have people working. You have to strike that balance. Is there enough pay? Are they mentally sound enough to keep going? Like, is it too stressful or is it just stressful enough? Like, where is the balance to keep people working, keep people living, and keep people relatively functional? But when you only look at the one side of the issue is, do they make enough money? Government says more money must be paid. It's never a correct solution. Tina Alpha says, I don't think you see the bigger picture. They want to raise the minimum so companies will fire all the staff so they hire Pablo instead for slave wages, and they don't need to worry about the minimum anymore. I mean, that could be some people's goals. Who knows what their goals are overall? My theory is pretty simple. I don't think it's that complicated. I don't think any of this is that complicated. Buy the votes with someone else's money. If you don't see where buying the votes with someone else's money is almost always the motivation of government policies that give money out, it's the simplest answer, and it's fucking correct pretty much every time. I want to buy your vote, but I don't have any money, but that guy has a shitload, so he's going to pay you twice as much because I said so. You want him to pay you more? Maybe keep me in office. Maybe next time we'll hike it up again. You got to buy those votes. And you can't do it directly. You can't go out and pay people to vote. But there are two major groups in this country who have found lots of ways to buy their vote. Policies that consistently hurt populations that think, oh, they're looking out for me. They aren't looking out for you. They never were. And again, if you are directly benefiting from some politician's words, or you think you are, you're the product. You're the product. They've never been interested in you. They're always interested in themselves. All right. With that, let's look at schools. Another interesting, this is from the Daily Caller. Another interesting facet of the government is the government education system. The government education system is fascinating because our education system was not always government based. It was not. Um, in fact, education was mostly private. Communities would get together, have a teacher. The teacher would teach in schoolhouses. Then it got big, right? You got big. You got a lot of people compressing into small areas. Government says, "Well, this is really hard to manage. Let's set up some schools. The state will fund these things, and we'll get teachers and all that stuff." Okay, fine, I guess. People started doing that. They created the government school system that we have now. But now you've got some weird shit going on in schools. And the problem is, we let them hook fangs into you a long time ago. There's a story that I'm not going to pull up from the education system. This is out of New York, I think it was. I'll just tell a brief synopsis of the story. Family was taking their kids to Disney World, right? A 2-week vacation to Disney World with their kids. They were going to take this vacation in September because if they took it in September versus in the summer or over like Christmas break, they saved $10,000 on the vacation. All right. So they're like, well, this makes sense. They're going to be gone for 14 days. 14 days of vacation time with the whole family. They've done this before. And the teachers started telling them, don't do that. No, you can't. You don't want to do that. Your kids are going to fall behind. And they said, our kids are not falling behind. Their daughter was one of the top SAT scoring kids in the region. They're caught up on all their work. They're asking ahead of time so that the kids can do the work while they're gone. So not missing anything. Teachers say, you don't want to do that. Don't do that. You're going to hurt your kids. You're going to harm their education. And I'm sorry, but I can't think of any 14-day period in my entire education history where missing it would have changed a damn thing. So the family takes this vacation. They've told the school. They've informed the teachers. When they get back, they are fined $600. I know that doesn't sound like much in comparison to what they saved. Remembering they're saving $10,000. They are fined and ridiculed for taking their vacation. Do you know why you're not allowed to miss school? Do you know why? It's not because of the education of the kids. You can get around that. Do you know why truancy exists? All of this. The schools are paid by the day that each student shows up. It is a per diem amount. And so when a student does not show up for a day, the school does not get paid for that day. That's it. So the government has created a system whereby they pay their own schools by the attendance. So then if the attendance suffers for whatever reason, excused or unexcused, suddenly the schools aren't getting enough money to stay operating, so they claim, because there's some administrative bloat, but we'll work around that. We'll work around that for now. And suddenly they say they can't pay staff, they can't pay teachers, they can't do activities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so they make it less and less able for you to take your child out of the government now mandated education that used to be entirely up to parents and communities to provide. Communities, churches, whatever, whoever would educate children. Maybe no one. Maybe the kid was raised to carry on the family farm, butcher shop, whatever it was. Natural tradesmen, generational trades. No longer. Now we have a public education system. We have a public education system that we have built in such a way as to let government write laws mandating that your child go. And you have to fight for your ability to educate children in your way. Private schooling had to be fought for. Homeschooling had to be fought for. The homeschool fight isn't even that old. It's something like 40 years old. The victory was right here in Minnesota. One of the first major victories in homeschooling happened here in Minnesota. Because parents were just schooling their kids at home. That's all they were doing. And the government came knocking, why aren't your kids in school? Fuck you, send your kids to school. We have expected amounts of students that have to be at this school. Send your kids to school. And they're like, nah, we're good. We got this. You can't possibly do it. Our public schooling system is really good. The U.S. public schooling system has never been really good. It has never been really good. And it's certainly not really good today. It's not the worst thing ever. It provides some level of adequate education, although we get so much extra shit. And this is the point. Now that they've created a system, self-reinforcing, enforced by law, in which your child is mandated to attend unless you have somehow acquired the right back to educate your own child, which in some states is not that hard. In Minnesota now, you just write a letter every year saying, we are homeschooling our children this year. Fuck off. In other states, it's harder. You have to check in. You have to keep logs and records of things and provide them to the school to make sure you're doing a good job. Let's say you claw your right to educate your own child. If you don't do that and you stick with the government system, and by the way, you know that two-parent household thing that Paige mentioned, like sometimes, things have gotten so expensive that you need 2 income earners. Can't really homeschool then, can you? If you got 2 income earners that are out of the house most of the day, you really need that 8-hour babysitter, don't you? And if you need 2 income earners, you probably can't afford a private school. So where do they go? They go right to the fucking government. So the government can educate your children on what the governors want them to learn. Let's see one of these stories right now. School district hit with federal lawsuit after child was allegedly forced to read pornographic script for a grade. 2 Nevada parents whose 15-year-old was allegedly forced to read a pornographic script during class filed a federal lawsuit against the Clark County School District on Thursday. In March of 2022, the teenager was allegedly assigned to read a sexually explicit monologue, which had been written by another student and edited by the teacher in front of the class for a grade. When the teen's mother attempted to bring her concerns to the school district and share the monologue during a meeting, her microphone was cut because the language was, quote, profane and improper for a public school board meeting, according to the complaint. The parents, Kendra and Terrell Evans, filed a lawsuit in state court in January. Now the American Center for Law and Justice is stepping in to represent the family in a federal lawsuit against the district, which was filed in the U.S. District Court for the District of Nevada on Thursday. We're going to read the monologue over on Rumble. I'll read the exact monologue. It's not very long. It's like the paragraph or 2. We'll read the monologue over on Rumble. But first, I got to tell you, as we're talking about government, right? We're talking about the joys and wonders of government. I have to tell you about our sponsor, which is covidtaxrelief.org. We've been talking about government ineptitude. We've been talking about government idiocy. We've been talking about government self-interest. COVID is a prime example of the government taking advantage of a totally legit situation to imprison you in your homes, to shut down small businesses, to snuff out dissent, and to make an entire population compliant. It was plainly obvious. it was clear. Some businesses were able to stay open, sometimes at great expense to the businesses, and that's who COVIDtaxrelief.org is targeting. This is a group of specialists that specialize in getting money from the ERC funding for small businesses. So this is a way to get up to $26,000 per employee that you kept during COVID. This is in addition to PPP loans and loan forgiveness and everything. So look, these guys specialize in it. I know if you're a business owner out there, you kept your doors open, you kept people employed. A lot of that costs a lot of money. There is some money that's earmarked by the government. Look, this money is gone from it's you not taking it does not mean it's not being spent. You spent your money, your blood, your sweat, your time to keep your business open, despite the government trying to shut you down, despite everything else. Take the money from the government if you can. So that's who they're looking for. They're looking for employers. You have to have 2 or more employees. You have to have stayed open through COVID. But if you need information on that, you can contact these guys. You can go to covidtaxrelief.org, fill out the information, and they'll get back to you. Or you can just call this number, 1-800-708-0465, and they may be able to help you out. Again, they do all of the stuff. You don't have to pay them anything. They actually get you compensation for an agreement that they will take a certain percentage out of that. I don't know what the percentage is. I have no idea. You have to talk to them about it. But it's one of those things where they acquire the money for you. They do all the work. You get a big chunk of it. They take a portion for their labor. And that's how that thing works. So it's free to contact them. It's free to use their service. And if they're able to get you money, that's how it works. If you're a small business who stayed open, check them out. COVIDtaxrelief.org. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move to Rumble. We're going to continue this discussion about government ineptitude, about government nonsense, and we're going to start it with a pornographic speech that a 15-year-old child, was forced to read in front of their class for a grade. The Rumble link is in the description on YouTube. It's also in the pinned comment on YouTube. Catch you over on Rumble, guys. Peace. Peace.
For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, ladies and gentlemen,